Do you notice, and this is completely separate, but when you're coming to edit these up, I put a nice little pause in between?
I've noticed that. Yes, I have. I have noticed that.
It's almost like we're professional.
Unless you talk about it and ruin the the magic, but fine.
That's fine. No. Let's do this bit again then. So, because we're not live, are we? Guardians of the Galaxy 3 has finally hit the cinemas. Now, this came out on Wednesday over here, and I had the day off, and I was coming umming and ahhing because I thought, A, I'd like to go and see it, but B, it would mean leaving the house, and I don't really like doing that. But I did.
You get that too, huh?
Yeah. Well, the NPCs aren't very friendly, and the quality's never generally very good either. And nobody's told me where the respawn point is outside. So I don't know where it is.
Oh, I got bad news for you.
I'm in this hospital again. So
why is this guy spanking me on the ass? Oh no, my save point.
Have you seen it?
I did. Saw it last night.
Okay. So just before we go on, then we will possibly talk about spoilers. I know Eggy was trying to avoid them, so this is actually a good thing he's not here. So. Overall, what was your impression?
Oh man, this was a tough one. Because it certainly isn't crap. I mean, it's above average. But whatever it was that made the first two, because I actually like the second one better than the first one, although I do love the first one. I just think the second one had better villain, and I like it. Just had a little bit more heart to it, a little bit more emotion. This one tried to do that, and it sometimes succeeded, and sometimes it did not. And it's a little long. The pacing could probably be trimmed up a bit.
Yeah.
And should we talk spoilers? I mean, it's hard to talk about that.
Basically, yes, we are going to be talking spoilers. If you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy yet, come back and watch this video again, because that actually helps with the algorithm.
Yes. So watch from the beginning. I don't care if you watch all this. I'll do it again. The story is Rocket's story for the most part, but they sideline him for the first 2/3 of the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. I'd say even longer than that. Maybe 3/4.
Maybe. Now, they do give him a sizable amount of flashbacks, but they're showing how he became who he is, how he became Rocket Raccoon. And since he doesn't interact with the rest of the Guardians very much, it's hard to get as invested. I don't feel the emotion that I should in this thing. Mm. And then but it's not like none of the other Guardians have anything to do. They do, and they have some of their fights, but they never take it to a logical conclusion to give you any emotional, anything. Mm. And so the two things I noticed, like it was in a full theater, and there was some obvious big moments, applause moments, and everybody just kind of was sitting there stone-faced. And
right, yeah,
should have been big emotional. One was when Rocket at the end, he's getting thrown around by the High Evolutionary, right. And then he hits a thing on his ankle that negates the High Evolutionary's power.
Yeah.
And goes, I'm Rocket. And that's supposed to be a big moment. It's supposed to be a huge moment where
it's supposed to be a Captain America with the hammers moment.
Yeah. It's supposed to be like he's overcome this guy that caused him so much pain for so long. And he says the line, it's almost a trailer line, I'm Rocket Raccoon or something like that. And he shoots him. And everybody in the theater, including myself, was like on, cool. There was nothing there. I should have been like with his father and with Yondu dying, I got worked up on that. Yeah. But with this, I was like, nothing. And part of that was because there should have been less flashbacks and more of him interacting, I think. And maybe then we could have gotten more emotionally connected with Rocket and this stuff. Now, this is kind of one of those where it's like I just don't think it was the best choice the way they did it. It didn't grab me emotionally. I don't think the story is garbage or anything, and it's not. It's if you want to watch it, I'd say you won't regret watching it. I don't want to crap on it. I just say, is it at the other two where it really had some really good emotion, but the songs didn't really. They were there. They didn't really. They weren't. They didn't evoke anything when they played them.
I did feel with the music it was overused. In the original movies, or both of the original movies, there's songs which obviously sort of come up and take precedence. But in this, it kind of, a song would come up and take precedence, and then another one, and then I think by the third or fourth time, I'm like, yes, it's a great soundtrack. We get it, James. You can tone that down a little bit now.
It didn't, like in the second one. And they did it best with the second one, although they did it very well in the first one. In the second one, they started out with Blue Skies, with Groot dancing around while all this stuff is going on in the background. It's a great way to start up, and the music works perfectly in that moment, the way they did it. And then after they get kind of past it, and they have a little respite, and they're going to leave, and kind of head out to whatever they're doing. They play Lakeside Drive, or I think that's what it's called. But it's about, and it's kind of like a little road song that kind of evokes the emotion, which is great. And then at the very end, after, they play the Cat Stevens dad song that really works after Yondu's just been buried and everything. And he's got little baby Groot there, which is kind of like a new surrogate son. And he's listening to it with him like a father and son would. The music that he picked worked specifically well for the setting that he set up in those scenes, right?
Yeah.
That never really happened in this movie, in my opinion. Not to that extent.
Let me just bring up Setlick's point here that the music was his mum's. Hang on. I'll put up the one where you spelt it right.
Yeah.
The music was his mum's favourite. And that's true, because obviously his mum, gave him this cassette. And so there was that kind of emotional connectional level, whereas kind of, again, in the second one it worked because he got given a Zoom and, there's like so many thousands of songs on there. But in this one, it just, like you say, it was emotionally just distant from what was going on.
Yeah, and then, you throw in that there's stuff in there from the early 2000s even, and it doesn't feel... This is one of those things, like, it just didn't feel like the other two movies. It didn't feel like a Guardians movie in some ways, and I don't know if it was... they built up this team, the core team of Rocket, Groot, Quill, Drax, and Gamora, and now Gamora is not Gamora anymore. And she was way too abrasive. Even, like, I get they took her back from 2014, but when we saw her in 2014 in the first Guardians movie, she was not nearly this abrasive as she was in this.
But then we don't know how long she's then been spending with the Ravagers.
I know, but it still didn't feel like it was her. Like, right. I know it's not her, but it's, you don't feel like she could grow into that person. And then when she ends up with the Ravagers at the end, I'm like, oh no, that's not satisfying at all. Why do I don't care about any of these people. They were a gag in an end credit in 2. They're nothing. They have no emotional attachment to any of these people. Am I supposed to be happy for her that she's with all these strangers that I don't care about?
A little thing that just annoyed me about this was they go through these 3 shields to get to this Omnicore or whatever this place was. They get through these 3 shields, then they meet up with the Ravagers, and I kept thinking, so what? Everybody can just get through this shield really easily.
Well, he was doing some monkey business with something, and that's why he was able to get in, because he's a Ravager in the past, and he's able to do some.
No. What I mean is
bullshit. That's how they got in.
Right, yeah. But like, this thing is protected by 3 shields. I know what Peter was doing when they get there, but when they get in the 3 shields, it seems like the rest of the Ravagers were already inside there as well. Oh
yeah, and it was kind of both like, Ravagers, right? So they did the same thing. I don't know.
But I suppose then, actually, thinking about it, Nebula did say that she contacted someone, so maybe they had just got in and were waiting for them. But then why would they attack them?
Yeah, I
Honestly.
mean, it's like they they do things that misdirect you for no good reason. I mean, good thing nobody started shooting at that moment, you know?
Yeah.
Blowing away Sylvester Stallone right then. And then there's other times where it's like Dave Cullen mentioned, it's like Gamora just pushes Peter, just is just violent with him for no good reason, which is like we're just supposed to accept that. And I think what he missed there, I mean, I agree with him. The random violence in sometimes these movies for no reason is kind of a little ridiculous, but then Nebula pushes Drax later on in the movie. The three of them are kind of stuck, and Nebula is losing her patience with Drax, somewhat understandably, and she pushes him, and Mantis defends him. It doesn't mean you should push him, you know? You don't have the right to just push him. We need to talk. Just because, you know. And then she calls him stupid. She says, I do, because Drax is stupid. And Drax kind of has a moment like, you guys think I'm stupid? And Mantis very honestly answers to yes. And I'm like, oh my God, this could be a character. And then she touches him and goes, forget.
Yeah.
No character growth there, I guess. I was so mad when she did that. It's like, oh, here's a moment for Drax. And then there was like...
learn and grow and, yeah.
Yeah. And then the Drax, and they showed this in the trailer where they come down to Counter Earth. This bothered me too. The destruction of Counter Earth, like everybody just kind of shrugged that off.
Yeah. Again,
Jesus Christ.
Again, I was the same of kind of just, so everybody just talks a funny language.
Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Let's go on an adventure. What? You guard shit, did you, Guardians? I mean, that was just awful. That didn't need to happen. I mean, try to save somebody, would you? You're supposed to be superhero movies. I know Guardians are a little different, but still, you put Guardians in your name. I just thought that was awful. And then, but when they land on Counter Earth and Drax hits the girl way too hard with the basketball, a little girl, it's supposed to be a funny moment, right? Which just, it felt really...
You didn't laugh out. You didn't laugh out loud.
I did not laugh out loud. But then later on, what is Drax doing? Drax is the one that connects with all the little girls and little kids, and he talks about his daughter. If this is a man who had a daughter and is connecting with these little kids and is becoming a father figure to them and everything else, this is not a man who would whack a girl with a basketball like that.
No, that's a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Just for a cheap laugh, it's like, is he dumb or is he not dumb? Is he caring or is he not caring? He's all over the place. And when they have a moment where it's like maybe they could address this, and then Mantis just says forget and uses her power to make him forget she just said that. Undercut themselves, and now they're not even using humor to undercut it. They're just undercutting whatever can of worms they opened up. So it was things like that. Now, Rocket's almost dying, that did get to me. I thought he was going to die. I really did. And they did that well. And I felt a lot of things for this dumb CGI raccoon. But yes, I was feeling things. Well done there. I liked Adam Warlock. I like his little growth, the little arc. But, he's ended up on the Guardians. And I don't know if he stayed through this credit scenes, but ended up with the Guardians. Kind of like that. I don't know why Quill just decided that he wanted to go see his grandpa. I don't see anything there that motivated him to go to Earth because he was running away or something. But it didn't work for me. Whatever they came up with, it didn't feel real. Nebula, I thought, was good. I like her running nowhere now and running the community. I thought that was good.
Weirdly, see, I thought Adam Warlock was completely sidelined.
Well, he was not. He was not going to be a major. Yeah, he was there as comic relief, but it's still. I like that he kind of saved Peter and wanted to know why he saved him. He was kind of this antagonist. He wasn't meant to be much, but I liked it. I get what they were doing with him. He's not going to be the comic guy. That's fine. That's what you're going to do, and for that, I'm fine with it.
they just to me they sold him quite big, and so I did think to myself, oh, he's quite a bad guy, and it was not completely sidelined, but he was just sort of turned up. He was funny and in his moments and stuff, but obviously the main antagonist was the High Evolutionary, and it was just kind of, oh, right, okay, so misdirection, whatever, it just sort of, I don't know, like I say, and then come the end, you knew what was going to happen, and so it was just kind of, oh, right, okay, Peter's in trouble, Warlock saved him. Like I say, I felt nothing towards that at all.
Yeah, I mean, I like that, that they had to try to save Rocket. I just wish they had done it a little bit quicker and got him back in the story a little bit more so we could get his mindset now.
My take on that was, with the whole Rocket thing, is, like I say, I do know what you're saying, that yes, he is part of the Guardians and everything else and blah, blah, blah. I found that the emotional backstory was actually quite good. In some prequels, we've seen how he kind of completely deconstructs the character, but having an explanation of why he's Rocket, why this High Evolutionary was after him, why he's a bit cynical and he doesn't kind of want friends apart from Groot and stuff, that for me really worked. Really, really worked.
I agree. I agree. The whole backstory was great. It was emotional. It gave you a very good understanding of who he was as a character. My problem is that once they, basically him being sidelined and sitting on a table and them trying to save him was an excuse to do the entire backstory, which took forever. Then when he finally got back into the story in the present time, he wasn't really doing much to push forward the story. A few things here and there, but nothing more than he had done in any other of the Guardians movies. You know what I'm saying? Except for maybe rescuing the raccoons and all the little animals, and having his one big moment with the High Evolutionary, which wasn't enough. That was my problem with it. It was like he needed to, there had to be something more that he did once he got back into the story. So a little less flashback, a little bit more him having agency and doing more stuff. Having some sort of, it was missing that big emotional thing that would have made his I'm Rocket and killing the guy would have made it a lot more.
Like the whole, like you say, at the end of Endgame, Iron Man saying Iron Man was just that moment,
right? Because it had been telegraphed and built up, and we had those moments that drug us along on his journey. We got the beginning, the backstory of Rocket's journey. We understand that. We understand a little bit of what he went through in the first two Guardians movies, but and of course Endgame and Infinity War. But now it's like, now we're getting all his backstory, and then I guess go kill High Evolutionary. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. What more? There's had to be something more. If you want me to get really emotionally invested in that end cycle, that's what I needed, and that's where I think it was something was missing there. And then them all just randomly separating, especially Quill. I guess Quill wanted to be with her, but he kind of accepted her, but Gamora was horribly misused in this movie. I just don't like at all what they did with her. On the flip side, I really like Nebula. I really liked how they used her and how she's become who she is. I kind of like that. So
I was indifferent to Nebula, weirdly. I don't know why. Like I say, I was just kind of indifferent to her in this one. What did you make of the whole heist bit at the beginning? Because I felt the whole thing was very much just, I want to say Act 1, but then weirdly, it was kind of almost the same as Act 1 of Return of the Jedi.
So we start out, they're all in let me take you back a little. We start out, they're all in nowhere, and I thought it was a pretty good setup of showing what their lives are.
Yeah.
Peter's a drunk, everybody else is doing their thing, and then Adam Warlock comes in, and they have a big fight in nowhere. Even Kraglin had to figure out how to use the arrows still.
Yeah.
But and he figures it out at the end. We get a little bit of what's the guy's name?
Sean Gunn.
No, not Sean Gunn. The guy who played Yondu.
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker. Yeah, we get a little brief cameo with him, which is nice. And So anyway, they defeat Adam Warlock, but Rocket's severely injured. So now they got to go find. They put a med pack on him, but it doesn't work because the shit that's in him has a fail safe, and if you try to do anything around the fail safe, it will just kill him. So you got to put the code in for the fail safe before you can put the med pack on him. But the med pack's like instant healing or whatever. So they go into this. It was actually kind of cool. This place that is organic bio space station. It's like
something that what's his name, David Cronenberg would create.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the gel, the bio gel packs on Voyager. If the whole Voyager was made up of that shit, then you get an idea what we're talking about here. And they all work inside this company, and that's where you get some wonderful Nathan Fillion cameos, which is actually kind of cool. He's got this guy that he just can't stand.
He's an idiot. Everything he says, I just want to murder him. Yeah,
I just want to murder everything he says. I just want to rip his head off. And then when he's talking to the gold lady, and she says,
Alicia,
Yeah, she's looking back at Warlock going, oh, he's such an idiot. He goes, idiot? Yeah, I understand totally. I got one of those myself.
I got one as well, yeah.
Fillion was fun. I liked him.
Yeah.
But they break in.
It's always great seeing Fillion, but yeah.
Yeah, they break in. They screw things up. They have their moments. Some of it was in the trailer, but they go to get this thing that they think has Rocket's stuff in it, but it doesn't. So the whole heist thing turns out to be pretty much for naught. I think the only thing they figured out was that they found that guy with the
had stolen it, and
the fat Buddha guy had it put into his head, so they had to get that guy. And so that's when they find out about Counter Earth, and they go land down there, which looks just like Earth, except it's full of Cronenbergs.
It's full of. I was going to say, it's full of things from Sweet Tooth, the new series on Netflix. half people, half alien.
Yeah, I think
half
it's
animal.
Like,
I should say half animal.
I think it's like the High Evolutionary takes like just a regular old turtle, and he gooses up his evolution by 1 million years, and then now he's like
in a few seconds.
And he's done this with all these different animals, and he says, I'm going to send him to this perfect Earth. And then he gets to the perfect Earth. It's basically just like regular Earth, where people are beating the shit out of each other for met deals and things like that. And that's why he destroys it, because it isn't perfect. And so he ends up just like, there is a nice suburb, and there's people getting along. It's basically like Earth, It's just people just doing their thing. Just they don't speak the language, and then he's like, "Well, it's so good." He destroys the entire planet. I'm like, and nobody. What bothered me? I think nobody seemed to really care that much.
Do you know what Chateau said on his channel that if you'd started with that would have been like obviously quite an epic opening of all these people dying and everything else, and it would also give you good reason for why the High Evolutionary was doing what he was doing, that he was after Rocket. And again,
but we already kind of know a lot of that already through some of the flashbacks. We already know he's a big asshole. We know that he was way too arch. By the way, he was way too arch.
I think what I liked about him was, I think the actor whose name I forget now, but he is very Thesperian and very Shakespeare, and I love the way he was like that. And I didn't kind of understand his suit, because obviously that suit gives him powers, because I was thinking he was very much kind of like Kang, because in that respect sort of thing. And again, I thought he was a good, like I say, a good villain for the set piece, but I don't know. No, go on.
I guess when Rocket, so during the flashbacks, Rocket makes friends with these other animals that have been horribly transformed, and when he realizes that they're not gonna send him to Counter Earth, they're just gonna kill him, dissect him, whatever, because Rocket has the ability to be inventive, spontaneously inventive, which kind of explains how he's always able to make all this shit in the other films. He's always just able to just...
I was going to say not to spoil too much, but I mean, he kind of makes his own key card to get out of his own lock and free everybody, you know. So he's creative and ingenious.
Yeah, and at that point, the evolutionary kills the little otter Lila that he was. I wouldn't say love, it wasn't like that, but it was like a little family, Yeah,
and that was horrible.
That was horrible. Yeah, I mean, like, well done on making him emote the way he did. It's a raccoon, and I'm like feeling for him. Yeah. And
I'm not.
And he tears up.
I've got something in my eye.
Yeah, and he tears up the high. He jumps on the high evolutionary. This is before the high evolutionary had these weird powers or whatever, and he tears the shit out of his face. Now we don't see it until later. We don't realize that was a permanent. And it was horrifying when you actually see because he wears this mask. We don't know it's a mask. We think he's just like RoboCop with the skin.
Yeah, because it looks like it's kind of pulled on. Yeah,
which they make the RoboCop reference. Of course they do, but it turns out it's just a mask. So when they pull it off and you see the remnants of his face, it's like, that is rough. Wow.
Rocket really did not like that guy.
No. And I didn't feel sorry for him, but it was like, that was unexpected. Of course, you don't see that till the end. But the point is that that's how he gets away. He gets on a ship and and then they cure him. By that time, you're well past, the Counter-Earth has exploded. There's a bunch of stupid misunderstandings where Nebula and Mantis and Drax end up on the bad guy's ship, but to rescue Peter. But Peter and Groot have already rescued themselves, so now it's like, now we gotta go rescue them, and then we gotta rescue the kids. And so they bring Nowhere, which I thought this was weird. It's like, Nowhere's a spaceship now, I guess.
Yeah, just like the Death Star.
And it comes
fly around space.
Yeah. So it comes to fight the other ship, and
I was going to say, at one moment, I wanted Nowhere to turn up over a planet going, "Show me what you got." Because it was a bit sort of, right, okay. Show me what you got.
That would have been good. I wanted to like this movie more than I did. And
weirdly then, if that's the case, just to counterpoint that, I wasn't that bothered about seeing it. And I was, on that Wednesday, I was kind of, I can wait this on streaming. And I thought, no, go on. There's a pub down the road. Have lunch there and go and see it. And so I wasn't looking forward to it, to be honest. I was kind of like, I can wait. Maybe because I went in with that attitude, I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like I say, it's far from perfect, and there are certainly things that are wrong with it. But I did think it was a perfect then set of the trilogy. Unlike, for example, Ant-Man, which had two perfectly good movies, and then the third one just absolutely, went completely nuts and went completely endgame, which to me, really ruined things. This was, you had Guardians 1, Guardians 2, Guardians 3. It's now just a great trilogy that you could sit down and watch all three of them and have fun with all three of them. It's the way I felt.
I guess some things worked really well and some things were a swing and a miss, I guess.
Yeah.
So I kind of look at it a little bit like Return of the Jedi. Like, Return of the Jedi isn't quite where Star Wars and Empire are, but it still has some really great moments. It's some things that you question, and and I feel like that a little bit like that about this.
That's exactly what I said, Setlink. That it is a good movie. It finished the trilogy off well. However, something that really did annoy me was there is a couple of scenes after the end credits. Obviously, it's a Marvel film, and I stayed for the last credits. I kept seeing people getting up and walking. People getting up and walking out and thinking, noobs. But right at the end, there's a scene. I'm not going to say what it was, but there's a scene right at the very end of the film, and after that, there's a flashcard comes up that says the legendary Star-Lord will return, and it was just kind of, guys, Why did you do that? You should just leave it as a trilogy. But we know it's Disney and it's Marvel, and they can't stop producing this content. And so,
well, it might be Avengers Avengers 4 and Avengers 5. Who knows? It may not be.
But it was to me that was just.
It won't be James Gunn. He's done. Yeah. He's not doing nothing with them anymore. So
no,
I would guess that they're just going to show up in some Avengers movies or something. I don't think it's.
But I did think to myself, just don't do that. You know, Indiana Jones was a perfect trilogy, and then you had to go and make Crystal Skull. You know, and just no. So that kind of annoyed me. But overall, I was entertained by the whole thing. I shed a tear or two because I had something in my eye. But no. It was good. Like I say, it finished the trilogy off well. When it comes out on streaming, I'd happily sit down and watch Guardians 2, and then Guardians 3 as a trilogy again.
Yeah, I just whatever magic sauce that they put on the other two was just not quite there for this one, and I don't know how else to explain it. I mean, if you're gonna say, well, other than Spider-Man, No Way Home, it's the best post-Endgame movie, I'd say, yeah. Absolutely. Or you'll put it at the second best, maybe. Because there hasn't been anything even close.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you think of... I mean, I kept thinking back to, like, The Eternals, which was just ridiculous. Legend of the Ten Rings of Shang-Chi, whatever, was kind of... It was all right, but I've never returned to it. Black Widow was terrible. And, you know, a few of these other movies and stuff, nothing... Like I said, there's nothing that's come out that I thought to myself, I can't wait to see that again. Even Quantumania, because, you know, Quantumania I see is coming on streaming, and I just think, you know, I watched that once and it was stupid. I'm not going to watch it again. Guardians, I'm quite looking forward to seeing it again a second time.
Yeah, I mean, I just, you know, it's
a movie.
It was a B. It was a B plus, I guess.
Fair enough.
I mean, it's not like. Yeah, these are the hardest ones to grade because it's like you want it to be better than what it is, but you can't really say it was terrible or anything either. It wasn't.
Do you know what? I've always found that quite weird, that Age of Ultron, a lot of people dumped on Age of Ultron because I think the Avengers, the Avengers Assemble was such a great movie, and they, Joss Whedon nailed it. And so when you then had another set of movies that went off and then we brought the Avengers back for Age of Ultron, a lot of people kind of expected it to be even better than the Avengers. And I think the Avengers and Ultron are very much on the same level pegging, but people were expecting more out of it. And it's kind of underrated. And like I say, I think people dumped on it a bit. And
I think Age of Ultron laid down a lot of groundwork for what was to come later. It certainly laid some of the groundwork for Civil War. And not just the Sokovia Accords. I mean, I'm talking about Stark and Cap's relationship.
And Captain,
things like that.
It's a really solid movie.
Yeah, I feel like Age of Ultron is one that got better because of what came after it. And I always liked it. I always thought it was fine, but it's one that I've gone back to and found things. It's like, oh yeah, then this came. Yeah. Cool. Little Easter eggs. I don't want to say soured. I still like the movie, but I feel like the first Avengers is actually somewhat becoming the redheaded stepchild. It feels a little too. How do I explain it? It was their first one, right? Like there's some tone stuff and some story stuff and some things that they were doing with Age of Ultron and really starting with the Winter Soldier. I think once the Russos got in there, they added some sort of spice to the movies. Even though Whedon did Age of Ultron, I think there was something that got added in there that continued on through Civil War and then the Infinity War and Endgame. That the first Avengers doesn't quite have. It feels a little, I guess, first movie-ish. I don't know how to explain it.
I don't know. I remember.
I like it. I don't want to say it's terrible or anything. I'm not trying to say that. No. It's just it has like the beginning is not good, and then after that it gets much better. But it's I don't know. It just doesn't. It doesn't quite have whatever it is the rest of the movies have. I don't know how to explain it.
That's fine. Something has said yes. Something has said I stayed for the end credits since 1970. What, are you still in the same cinema? I appreciate all the
That's a long ass
behind
movie.
the camera.
Jesus.
I own all the originals, no bootlegs. Modern end credits are amusing. That is the problem with modern end credits. Is I put together a list once, and it had on one side, it was like Jason the Argonauts, special effects done by Ray Harryhausen. Marvel Endgame, special effects done by like a little list of like 1,000 names pretty much, and like they have got out of hand and it is ridiculous. But no, I'm the same. I would always stay. I sometimes like going through the end credits, and as it's randomly going along, you'll sort of say, hey, Dean Smith, focus puller, you did a good job, mate. Well done. Just randomly pick a name and just sort of say, well done on that key grip. I think you did an excellent job there.
That's
just
right.
to sort of just to show them a bit of appreciation.
Yeah. Hey, let's give a shout out to that caterer. Well done.
Exactly.
Okie doke. Yeah, that's my thoughts on Guardians. I think it was. I'm not going to say you're going to regret seeing it or anything like that. No. I just think if you're going in there expecting just this, because the first one was kind of a revelation. It was something that we had never really seen before. The second one, I think, was kind of like it's Empire Strikes Back, where it really amped up the emotion and all that kind of stuff and did a great job with it. And then the third one is kind of like Return of the Jedi. It's like, it's good. It's not quite what I hoped, but not, a little too long. Okay. Fine.
There's a review of Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Okay.
You all hate yourself. Should be on the poster. Guardians of the Galaxy 3. You won't hate yourself.
You won't hate yourself. Drunken Yoda. Last movie Outpost.
Thank you for watching this excerpt from Outpost Frequencies. Tune in live every Sunday at noon Central Time or 6 o'clock UK time. And also, remember to come to lastmovieoutpost.com for all your latest in movie news, streaming news, and everything cool about film. We are the cool news now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next stream.